Cool, welcome back. So in this one we're going to look at this part we call the leg sleeve down here. So it's basically just a tube that's welded in sort of perpendicular orientation to the leg tube. And the purpose of this part is to connect the leg to the motor tubes. So I will quickly insert the motor tube assembly just to show you guys what that looks like. So essentially, let's bring them in here. So we'll have 6 of these motor tube assemblies. One for each wheel, and they're all the exact same assembly, so there'll be one in all 6 wheel positions. And essentially this is just a tube which has a motor and gearbox inside of it, and our rover wheel attaches to this hexagonal shaft and rotates. And essentially the motor tube connects to the leg sleeve like so, so it slides in, not quite like that, but it'll slide in sort of like this, and then those 3 holes we can see on the top of the motor tube, we'll bolt those to the leg sleeve through those holes. So this part basically goes in like this, and it all gets bolted together. So that's the purpose of the leg sleeve, and we will start to draw it. So I'm going to open up this part so we can take a quick look. So it's basically a bit of 60mm tubing that's got some flats that are cut on the 2 sides here. These have been milled flat for the bolt heads to sit flat on. So cool. We'll just get a quick measurement. So this one here, like we mentioned in the previous video, it's almost a 60mm diameter tube. We've put in the exact radius here of 29.94 because we've measured the part in real life and it's slightly undersized. So we're going to start by making this part. We should be able to make this in around about 3 features. So we'll click on new, we'll click part, and we'll start our first sketch on the right plane. Start by drawing a circle, and then we'll draw two arcs on either side. So we're going to try and get the flat geometry in here as well if we can. So we'll add in 2 flat lines like this, and we'll make sure these are both horizontal. Looks like the top one's already horizontal, that's great. And we'll set this inner diameter here to 55mm, and the outer radius here we'll set to 29.94, like that. This other one, since that'll be the same size as this radius, I'll shift click on those and click equal. Could also use co-radial, that would work here as well. I'll just set that to equal. And then we're going to set this distance here to 29.5mm. And this bottom one here, I'm just going to set these 2 lines equal so that is sort of uniform. Cool, so that's that. Now we're going to set the overall length of this part here. So I'm just going to double check quickly what that is. I think it's 54mm, 86mm. Okay, I was out by a long way. So 86mm. So we'll go to features and we'll go 86mm like that. And then we'll add in some holes. So we could use the hole wizard. I'm just going to sketch in these holes quickly using circles. So I'm going to go sketch 2, normal 2, and then I'm going to draw in a few circles like this. And then we're going to set these all to equal size. And then I'm going to set those to 5.1. Because that's the... Actually, let's go 4.1. We'll put M4 bolts in these holes, so we'll set the hole size to 4.1, which is a nice close fit. Now what we'll do, we'll make sure that, see, these can sort of move off this center line. So what I'll do, I'll click on the center of these 3 circles, and I'll also click on the origin. So I'll select all 4 things, and then we'll do horizontal. So that will keep them all nice and aligned. I'll set the side distance from here to here to 5mm, and I'll set this one also to 5mm, but I'll put in a function by using the equal symbol and clicking on the other 5mm so that those 2 will stay the same. And then lastly, what I'm going to do, I'm going to put a reference dimension here. So I'm going to convert this line here, and then I'm going to put a reference dimension here, and then I'm going to put a second dimension here, and I'm going to set this equal to this one divided by 2. Plenty of ways you can set this up, but essentially what we're trying to achieve is we want to make sure that this hole stays in the center of this tube if we wanted to change the length down the track by changing the boss extrude size, we'd want this hole to stay in the middle. So that's one way of doing it. Could have also picked up on the midpoint of this line potentially and done a vertical relation or something like that. That would work as well. So we'll X out here now, and we will extruded cut these 3 holes just like that. Perhaps let's go through all as well. And, perhaps a hole wizard would have worked there as well. Yeah, could have used that, but yeah, we went for circles instead. So that's chill. Alright, so then finally we're going to put in our side hole here. So we'll grab on to the front plane and we'll start a new sketch on that. Then we will rotate to normal and we'll put a hole in here of, I believe it was 25 millimeters. I'll just double check quickly. 25 millimeters, awesome. So this hole originally was placed inside of this tube as a port for cables to run up the leg, so we could put the cables on the inside of the leg. I don't think it ended up happening, but we've got the hole in this part nonetheless. So, again, we'll grab a driven dimension off of here, so just like a reference dimension, and then we will set it equal to half of that, like that. And then lastly, you can see this can move like that, so we will add in a horizontal relation here. Cool. And now what we'll do, we will extruded cut this through one side, and we'll just go through all. Brilliant. So that part is now complete, and it's nice and adjustable. So just as an example here, if I change the length of this to say 100, all our holes should stay central. If I do a rebuild perhaps, there we go. Sometimes you have to click on the rebuild button for it to update correctly. You can see how those holes there are still central in this part, which is fantastic. So I'll just quickly put this back to 86. And I'll click on rebuild. And then we're back to how we had it. We'll click a save. We'll go to our CAD tutorials and we'll go to our suspension folder, front leg, and then we'll set it to our second part, and we'll call this our front leg. I'll just call this leg sleeve part, something like that, and we'll save that, and that's done.